Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. It's Starrylock. This is both Starrylock and Starry's Lost and Found. We are in Harrison Park. And these are part of the most recent addition to this park, as is that little cup over there. A few years ago, they added a frisbee golf course as part of this park. There's not a whole lot of amazing things in this park, although there's a long history to it. Probably be well worth metal detecting if it hasn't been done already. Let me see. B3 Relic Recovery, Dana Reed, Don's Locks, G Keyman 565. Lockpicking Engineer. Ronald seems to be everyone that's in here so far. So, hello to the 7 of you. Over here we have some open ground and quite a few aging trees. You might be able to spot a little yellow, a metal receptacle, which is part of that golf course, the frisbee golf course. The public restrooms over here. A much older element to the park is this gazebo. I don't know if there's any markings to indicate an age. There's hole number 7 of the frisbee golf course. Old jungle gym and slide. This park has, it's 4 square blocks, and it has had a lot of things in it over time. There's a more modern play set. A little place to gather and play chess or checkers. In 1912, there must have been a flatter area to this somewhere. We kind of dip down over there and rise up over here. That rocket apparently has been part of a playground set here since the 1950s. And that merry-go-round originally was part of an elementary school of Little Red that we were at a couple of weeks ago. And got moved here. 3 weeks ago, I showed you the Jackman cabin that was moved to the current location, and it was initially located in this park in the 1950s and 60s, and was an area that the kids were allowed to play in. As you can see, the gazebo it looks solid enough. It's the outer layer of plaster that's That seems to be peeling away, but the structure itself seems solid enough. ADSI 156 is here. Asher Kambaj. Welcome to both of you. In 1912, this park was a baseball field, or part of it was. I'm not sure what part. I haven't found any old photos that show that. But in 1912, there was a third incarnation of what was called the Iowa State League. And there had been 2 previous attempts to form an independent minor league baseball league. And previously they had all been centered in eastern and central Iowa, where most of the population of the state was. This third incarnation was based around north central Iowa. And it consisted of 3 larger towns in the form of Clear Lake, who were the Clear Lake Fish Eaters, the Mason City Cement Makers, and I couldn't find any references to what the Fort Dodge team was called, or the Emmetsburg or Esterville. Looks like we have sand volleyball over here when the nets are up. The Clear Lake team ended up dropping out halfway through the season, and Emmetsburg ended up at 4th, so there's no real celebration for the city on that account, but and the entire thing folded after a year. I know this is one of the oldest I'm not sure why the turkey vultures are circling me. This is one of the oldest water towers, the oldest water tower in town. There's only 2. And I don't know for certain when it was built. It may have been here in 1912 for all I know. But they don't put cornerstones on water towers. Or if they do, I don't know where they'd be. But that is the first reference to this park I can find historically was this is a baseball diamond in 1912, containing a baseball diamond, that is. That's odd. It's a basketball court, but it has metal frames to the side so you can change it over into a tennis court. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Legless Lockpicker has joined us, as has Butcher's Block and Chaz73. Welcome, everyone. The next reference I have has something to do with concrete slabs like this, because in the 1950s, there was actually 3 tennis courts in this park. And that made a news article because a local cement firm had donated the cement for making the 3rd tennis court. And this is the only sign of a large enough area to be a tennis court. So this might be from that date. I don't see any years on the corners of it where they were likely to stamp it. And obviously, it's gotten broken up and aged over time. Heavy Metal Mamas is here. And then in the 60s, the Jackman cabin was moved from its original location to this park. And eventually, of course, like I mentioned, Porter, Ottawa, Illinois, P231. And there's more writing over here saying the same thing. So I don't know if Porter makes the merry-go-round set or makes that particular fitting. But it says the same thing on all the places where the handles come down. This gets mentioned by people remembering their childhood as the vomitator, because it apparently could go fast enough to make kids lose their lunch. Have you seen the pottery I found when the Roman quarry is? That's a very cool chest. I have not. I'll have to look that up on your site, on your channel. This I know dates fairly far back for the children's, well, nothing like 1800 years ago, obviously. This is more like the 1950s. But it is another playground climbing set. And it is just referred to as the Rocket. There are adults now, but kids at the time who talk about it, asking if it's still in this park because it was part of their childhood back in the 50s. So that has been here a long time in relative terms. I don't think the baseball diamond is that way because that oak tree looks pretty old over there. Not oak, it's clearly a pine tree. Keyman, G Keyman 565 says, it's not the kids losing their lunch you have to worry about, it's the ones that find it. There's a few kids when they find other kids' lunch like that end up losing their own. So, and Magnet Fishers Plus. It's awesome that he's documenting this old park. I wish I had more historical information than what I'm providing you, but it is, at least as far as the 20th century, an interesting location that has been part of childhood and adult lives since, well, most of the 20th century. Wonder if there used to be more trees than that. 2 solitary trees off by themselves but growing fairly close to each other. Parks in my area have taken all that out and updated in the last few years. Yeah, obviously this park has gone through a lot of iterations and changes as time gone by, but whoever's in charge of the parks department around here has made certain that elements of it remain, because otherwise that rocket is part of a play set from the 1950s and it probably wouldn't still be here. if they were all about modernizing. It is just about freezing, slightly below freezing. So 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius. It is supposed to make it into the upper 40s, which is pretty much seasonal for the first part of April in Iowa. So it won't be one of those exceptionally warm or the other extreme. Boy, there's a lot of lichen and moss growing on this. And the design is certainly dates it pretty old too. This town is surprisingly quiet at this time of day. None of the church services even start on Sunday until 10 a.m. So I don't know if all the reasonable adults stay in bed or what the deal is. Obviously, this jungle gym, no, what do you call these? I don't remember what these are called, where you do your climb across on the rungs, meant for a much shorter person than I, as my head goes through the rungs. My metal detector is an antique itself. It's a Bounty Hunter 101, but I'd still like, gonna have to roll back here to see what the rest of that statement was. Take Mr. Beep-a-lot to that park. Yeah, it'd probably be an interesting place to check out. I have a definite contrast of this older playground set there to this much more modern one where you have the plastic climbing wall. Monkey bars. There we go, Donna. I will not consider that a senior moment, as, well, I haven't used that term in decades. Yeah, 4 square blocks give you plenty of room for picnicking areas and playgrounds. And yet everything is within sight, so you don't have to get too worried about your kids. In case you're worrying, the turkey vultures all seem to have left. They're no longer circling me, so apparently I wasn't appetizing. And for whatever reason, there is a steering wheel. And there's your modern monkey bars. Yeah, sorry about blocking the view. I have corrected that. There's a better shot at the water tower. And I don't know if you can see that, but the turkey vultures are all gathered around the upper rim up there. So they weren't circling me so much as circling the perch they were going to move to. I'm sorry about the odd movements and so forth. I am trying to add the battery. They theoretically fixed the battery problem with the latest iOS update. It is still having the same problem, so I have to put the battery charger on there. Old playground equipment has been removed and replaced. The government doesn't want to get sued. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case here. We have playground equipment from the 1950s up through probably the 2000s are over here. Let's see here. My hand will get cold here for a bit, but those little black figures on the railing up there are fairly large birds. They're bigger than they look from here. They are, and I don't know if turkey vultures are something common around this part of the country, but I don't know how much. Anybody else knows what I'm talking about? I tried to zoom in, and now all of a sudden it's stuck in this position. Wonderful. Well, this gives you an idea of Harrison Park. It has some interesting features still. It has a long enough history to make it have different changes over time. You can see a street here, and beyond that is where the high school football field used to be. It's used for a practice field and sometimes a soccer field now. And beyond that is railroad tracks. So I can't see your chat on the chat anymore because of that. My hand might be cold enough that it's not conducting the power it needs for the camera to react to. Don't know what the problem is. So if I don't respond, all I can see is the edges of your icons. So I think Chris Capoon and Lockpickings Gal is here, but I can't read your comments. So I am very sorry about that. My hands are getting cold. I'm not responding well to this cold. The steering wheel I was talking about earlier is right there, which looks like it comes off a lawnmower, but I don't know. Something for kids to play with, I guess. Yeah, there it was, blocking your view again. Once a month, I am going to have an open mic session like I did last week. That gives a chance for me just to interact with you. Today, I think I'm going to call it a little short, as it is colder than I expected, and the wind is starting to pick up. My hands are turning numb. There is a view of the north side of the park. Across the street there, you can see the St. Paul Lutheran Church. The street that dead ends into the park there to the east of the church is Harrison Street. I don't know if this park is named after Harrison Street. I could not find records. I looked through the internet and I looked through the book records at the library, and I could not find why this is called Harrison Street. It's possible it's named after President Harrison, but I have that would be pure stipulation, and Guesswork on my part. I'll head back to my car and get my hands warmed up, and maybe I can reduce the screen at that point and be able to see what you're saying to me again. Well, that gives you an idea of one of the city parks in Emmetsburg. Emmetsburg dates from the 1850s. So this has history from the early 20th century. So it may or may not be as old as the town, but it's pretty close to as old as the town. You can see some of the older houses across the street there. We'll climb back into the Starry mobile. And if you heard that bird as I was climbing into the car, I believe that was a mourning dove, which for some reason, they are pretty much an innocuous bird that look like gray doves. Somebody really wanted to hunt them, and they've now passed a law permitting hunting of mourning doves in town. I don't know how that works out with the inability to fire firearms in town, but there we go. Oh. LPG says, thank you, Starrylock, for braving the cold for us. I really enjoyed seeing around the area. Rocky Mountain Life Prospecting. Good morning, Starry. Lost and found. And Magnet Fishers Plus says, same here as LPG. Yeah, I'll be lucky if it gets to 54 is the high here, Chris. It'll start warming up as the month goes on. 3 weeks, I'll be 60 years old. Every time I've tried to go out magnet fishing, I'm just going to have to break down and go out to the rivers in this cold, I guess, because the lake is filled with fishermen. LPG says, my name is Lock Pickings Gal. I had to take down my videos until my divorce is over. Hopefully just another 2 weeks. You're international. Sorry about not being active in the chat today. Just watching screen and listening while trying to locate a night latch spacer for a 6-pin Ruko. Dudley Dippers says, hi from Dudley Dippers. And everyone is telling me how warm or cold it is. And Jody Mosby is here saying, hi, Miss Nikki. Oh, it's nearly been 30 minutes. I can get a little better shot of the St. Paul Lutheran. Like I've said on previous, this is a town of 3,000 people. At one point, it had 2 Catholic churches. It is down to 1, but we have 4 Lutheran churches because of the separation of types of Lutherans. We have everything from Evangelical Lutheran, which is some of the more liberal-minded Lutherans. I think St. Paul is probably the most conservative. It is It's part of the Missouri Senate Lutheran Church. They are quite conservative in their social views and in their church beliefs. Hopefully next Sunday is warmer and I can stay out the whole time. When I was younger, the cold wouldn't have bothered me this much, but I guess being in nearly 60 is enough to. Dana, I got a few more things sorted today, but now the bin search is for a part I need for a job tomorrow. So, why don't we get an outer view of the park? I'll take a drive around the neighborhood. You can see approaching the water tower, but don't worry because the road turns away from it. We do not go through the gazebo. I cannot do that today, LPG. I will try to do that the next time we have an open forum. I am on StreamYard, and StreamYard does not allow me to do those features that are my abilities when I am in YouTube. I'd love to give you wrenches. As you can tell, things dip down in a ravine over here. It is not a river valley, though. It is dips down and then rises back up to meet the railroad tracks over there. And we've spotted our first person on the street walking around. And the expression on her face is, why am I out here walking in this cold? And she was wearing a parka and full winter gloves. There is the old football field, which is now a practice field and sometimes soccer field. Almost everything we have, elementary west, the West Elementary School. And then we have the junior high and high school have been combined into one building, which was this town's way of trying to consolidate so they didn't have to combine with other towns. This here, I have shown you from a distance before. This is they don't want you on the parking lot right now because this is private property. But that is the old high school, which then became the junior high, which was then sold off. Clark's Cove Detecting has joined us. Good morning, Robert and Melissa. I would give you a blue wrench as I've tried to give it to everyone, but StreamYard doesn't give you that power, as you probably know. Or maybe you don't. I don't know. And hello, how are you? K. Titus, Samurai Ken who lives in Japan, has joined us. And Sobir from India is here. Boy, we're getting the far afield world people as I sort of just give you a driving tour instead of me walking. Because the lake just seemed like the pier, the dock is open. I hope it's open when the temperature rises a little bit out here. Lowell Forbes is here. And there is Sober Park, which I've shown you this end of it before. There's one of the Lutheran churches that is more moderate. It's not liberal, but it's not the most conservative in town. And we just had the 30-minute warning for Diggin Canuck's metal detecting live, which, as it's 36 after the hour, I think YouTube is notifying me late on that one. Here is Five Island Lake. As you can see, the ice has now gone. The dock there, 2 weekends ago, the ice was still on the lake, and I was going to go magnet fishing, but about a dozen junior high kids and 3 high schoolers with their mopeds were out there. And I went home disappointed, and then I could hear the ambulance siren. And a while later, I was going out to get something from the store. I think I was heading out to Quick Star. And there was an ambulance and a police truck, because we don't have police cars in this town. Yes, it is almost time for pancakes. I'm going to tell this story and then call it a day and head home. So, I didn't go magnet fishing because of the dozen junior high kids and 3 high schoolers. And then later when I drove by, there was a police car and an ambulance, and I stopped and talked to them. And it seems, I don't know who instigated it, but you do stupid things when you're in junior high or high school, many of us as adults. One of the kids, the junior high kids, had been lowered down onto the ice, even though there was open water within maybe 2 feet of him. And he was dancing out on the ice, and then it cracked open, and he went for a dip. Somebody reached down and pulled him back up onto the dock. I would guess some of the high school boys. And when the ambulance and the police got there responding to a call, there was just kids sitting on one of the benches on the dock shivering. So everybody had scattered to the 4 winds. Luckily, it was 70 degrees out, so a little bit of warmth and the kid will be all right. But Jeff's obsession is here. Edsy156 says magnet fishing is fun, and he had a pretty good magnet fishing video not long ago. Okay, it is time for me to go make pancakes. I'm going to bring this to an end and go make breakfast for me and my housemate. And it's particularly important for me to do that today because he's making curry for me for dinner. So, It's a great trade-off. I can enjoy the pancakes I made, and then I can enjoy the curry he's making. So take care, everyone, and I will see you soon.